Hello and welcome to this video about 3-point perspective. So how do we start drawing 3-point perspective? So just like in 2-point perspective, you start by drawing a horizontal line. You make two vanishing points at its ends. Now this line joining the two vanishing points is called as the line of horizon. So once you have these two vanishing points, now you have to place the third vanishing point. You can place the third vanishing point either below this horizon line or above it. Placing it below the horizon line would make your drawing feel as if it's being viewed from a bird's eye. If it's drawn above the horizon line, it would seem that the drawing is viewed from the eye of an ant. So now I want to draw a building in 3-point perspective. So I'm going to be placing third vanishing point below the horizon line for this example. So just like in 1-point perspective and in 2-point perspective, I can start drawing lines of perspective emerging from the vanishing points. So now that I have the top part of the building, I can join the edges to the vanishing point to make the vertical lines. So if you observe, we have used a different technique for drawing 3-point perspectives compared to 1-point and 2-point. In 1-point perspective, we had used a 10 feet wall as a reference. In 2-point perspective, we used a 10 feet wall's edge as a reference. In 3-point perspective, we have not used a reference at all, and that will be explained in a bit. So in 1-point perspective, horizontal and vertical lines were not affected by the vanishing point. Hence, a wall could be used. In 2-point perspective, however, only vertical lines were unaffected by the vanishing point. Hence, an edge of the wall was used. In 3-point perspective, however, as you have observed, no lines are parallel to one another. Every line drawn on the paper will be meeting either of the three vanishing points. But how does this matter? If you remember in one of the previous videos, it was explained that as an object gets closer to the vanishing point, it becomes smaller. So, if we were to take a unit of measurement, even that will become smaller as it approaches the vanishing point. So, even if in actual, this unit of measurement is the same, on paper we have to draw them like they are getting smaller as they approach the vanishing point. So, this would mean that for the same unit of measurement, there is an uneven scale. So, if there is no definite scale, you cannot use any definite measurement like 10 feet wall, for example, as a reference to determine the scale and proportion of any other object in the composition. So now let's have a look at some of the examples. So in this drawing, the viewer is looking up at a building. You can see the use of landscape that we learnt in one of the previous videos. So adding these trees and street lamps adds much more interest to the composition. In this question, you are viewing a city from a skyscraper. So you can clearly see that the viewer is on a viewing gallery and you can see the hands of the viewer as well. This view is also comparable to a bird's eye view. In this question, you are inside a watch. Interest has been added to the composition by considering where the viewer is inside the watch. Instead of having the viewer at the edge, he is placed near the center. Also, the watch taken here is a little complicated, so it has interesting dials and elements inside the watch. The shading has been done in such a manner to give the interiors of the watch a metallic finish. Also, you can see a hand which is just about to tap the watch, which adds more interest to the composition. In this question, you are an ant on a chessboard. Since this is the view of an ant, the vanishing point will lie very close to the floor. In this case, the chessboard is not even visible. You can only see the chess pieces. You can see that there is a dominant figure, which is the king piece. Subdominant figures such as the hands holding the pawn and the bishop are seen. Also, other elements such as the rook and the other player playing the match are seen. So, rook here, instead of having it standing up vertically straight, it is fallen down. which adds more interest to the composition. In this question, your height is reduced to 2 cm. You are at your table and you have to draw what you see. So since the height is so less, I thought I could put the viewer inside the container of a sharpener. So if you look all around the edges, you will realize that the viewer is inside a transparent cylindrical container. Since there is a foreground element because of this container, it adds depth and interest to the composition. In this question, a vegetable seller is chased by a street dog. A child with a cycle is watching the scene. Now this scene could have been done in 1 point, 2 point or in 3 point perspective. But 3 point perspective gives a very interesting result since it feels like the viewer is also part of the scene and just like the child, he is also watching the scene. Also observe the pavement. The pavement is made cracked and uneven, which has a much more interesting look to it compared to having a flat perfect pavement. Alright, so that's it for this video. See you in the next one.